Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen of the pairs will be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video because I do have a bonus pair in store. But yeah, guys, no trades for the week for me. Market was a little bit stale. However, we did finish the week off pretty strongly with a lot of momentum, a lot of big moves in the market. We saw a lot of euro weakness, a lot of AUD and NZD strength, some dollar weakness as well. CHF pairs were moving crazy. Yen pairs took a big drop, or at least some of them did. So across the board, a lot of big moves, kind of capping off November and starting off December. So I think the next couple of weeks for December will prove to be very, very interesting. And there are a lot of good moves in the market, which I'm looking to follow, so you can get some good, healthy pullbacks and get involved. So let's take a look at them. So with Euro USD starting things off as always, not too much momentum for this one, but we did see a nice drop this week. And again, that's kind of what we were looking for coming into the week. I was talking about this 1.1 level here for Euro USD, big level on the daily chart, resistance, big breakout. And then of course we come back to the same level. So I was expecting to see some type of reaction here, since the market for Euro USD has been very, very bullish, but we haven't really seen a big, or at least a big retracement for a while, especially with all this momentum. So I'm expecting to see some type of reaction. We did see a bearish move. Didn't really give us an opportunity to short, so I'm actually still looking for a bit more development in this bearish structure. If we can pull back, see some lower lows and lower highs, break some structure and get some shorts on the retest, maybe there's some longs to follow back up again. Especially coming into this area, big strong breakthrough, never had the retest as support, so I would definitely watch out for this area for some longs if you are looking to long, or if you're looking to short, nice place to take some profit. But at the moment, I'm still looking for a bit more downside in Euro USD. Strong reaction from that 1.1 level. No real clear opportunity to jump into any shorts. However, if we can start forming some lower lows and lower highs, that would be fantastic. And then I would expect to see some more downside for Euro USD next week, at least back into 1.07565. And then possibly there might be some longs if we do start reacting strongly bullish from this level back up to that same level again. Because if I do expand to the daily time frame, we have broken some structures, so potentially we could still be seeing a lower high and the market come back down again. But then if you flip that, it looks like we've also taken liquidity underneath these lows here, and possibly printing a next major higher low on the daily, weekly charts, and could be seeing a bullish swing back to the highs there. So I can kind of envision price going both ways. I haven't really solidified a bias of where I'm expecting price to go longer term. I'm kind of just playing it by candle, seeing how the market reacts on the low time frames, and then planning my bias from that. So at the moment, still looking for a bearish reaction. Let's see if we can break through 1.08672, get some lower lows and some lower highs going, and then possibly some shorts back into this level here, then maybe some longs later on. So that'll be the plan for me next week for Euro USD. Okay guys, so over to dollar yen. So dollar yen, we did see some nice downside this week, which was expected. The market had this big break of structure last week. So since then, simply looking for a pullback and a continuation back to the lows. And we did see that pretty early this week on Tuesday. Price already came into the lows and actually saw some new lows. Had a nice pullback as well this week as well. I'm still expecting more downside for dollar yen. Again, let's not forget where we're trading here for dollar yen. Real big prices here up at this resistance at 150. We're expecting to see a bigger reaction. I have been talking about this area of confidence for the buyers as a possible place where price could be attracted towards. This previous major swing high now can be turned support, and of course we do have the lower end of this bullish channel. We got that kind of confluence resting nicely around 145, 500 in that area. So I'm still looking for a bit more downside for dollar yen next week. However, we haven't really broken through the lows here, as we can see. If I kind of just draw it from the wick to the body, haven't really broken through yet. We have displayed some nice momentum, so I do want this momentum to continue, break through this area, and then we can start looking for some retests to short back down into 145. This looks like a good opportunity. If we don't, however, and we just start kind of dancing at that same level, as in not breaking through, then we don't really have that break of structure, and I wouldn't really want to be looking to sell into that level. Possibly we might see a double bottom, and possibly price might go higher. So for dollar yen, I'm definitely bearish, especially coming from these heights, especially reacting against 150. We're seeing some really nice bearish structure here with some nice momentum as well. Nice prominent lower lows and lower highs. So it looks attractive to short, but let's actually get that break of structure first, and then we can start looking for some shorts underneath. And like I said, 145 is a nice area on the higher time frames that we could see price pull towards. So that is the plan next week for dollar yen. Okay, so moving on to dollar CAD. So dollar CAD gave us a really nice move to the downside this week, which is what we were talking about coming into the week. We had a really nice break of structure, price taking out these lows here, nice move to the downside. So essentially we're looking for a pullback and a retest of structure to continue. There's a quite shallow pullback that happened on Monday, as you can see, a slight pullback there. And then we kind of got the follow through the start of the week, kind of a midweek retracement, and then follow through towards the end of the week as well. Was looking for a bit more retracement for USD CAD to start the week, but price was just very bearish. However, going into next week, again, the exact same thing. The bearish structure is still prominent. We've actually taken out this low here as well. So again, adding more confirmation to the sellers that we could potentially be going even further. I'm looking at this daily low here with all these wicks resting around 1.344. Looks like a nice place we could be ending up at. And also I really like the momentum which we just closed the week off too. So for next week for dollar CAD, we could see a repeat of what happened this week, which is a quick retracement to start the week off and just a follow through to continue on for the rest of the week. I'm looking at this low here at 1.354. That looks like a nice place for a retest of, see the next lower high after we create these new lows, and of course ending up at this 1.344 level of daily support. Or if dollar CAD wants to have a bigger pullback, I'm also looking at this area of confluence resting around 1.363, which would be a very nice pullback. If the market is seeing some dollar bullishness, we might see a bigger pullback, come back and retest this big low here, connecting the dots there, seeing those lower highs. This also is a nice area of confluence where we could look to play some shorts, which of course will have a much better risk reward if it does play out. But again, there's a lot of bearish momentum at the moment. We might just see a shallow pullback. We may not even get a retest of that level. Price could just open up bearish and keep falling. But if you do get retracement, this area and that area look very attractive for some shorts. So keep an eye on the retest of 1.354. Again, not as good of a risk to reward, but then the chances of price having a pullback all the way to here is obviously not as likely as the pullback into the low there. So need to take that into account. But either which way, these both look like good opportunities. So if we can see a pullback into one of these two areas next week, waiting for some confirmations and some shorts back down into that daily low there. So that's the plan next week for dollar CAD. Okay, so moving on to euro pound. Euro pound this week was very bearish. A lot of weakness in the euro. Pound was a little bit strong. And of course, this was a recipe for disaster for euro pound. Huge move to the downside, breaking through a lot of key structural lows. I think we already broke through this one coming into the week, or did we? No, we didn't. We broke through this low and this low this week. So real important lows we've been taking out. Of course, we've well and truly broken away from this bullish ascending channel. Again, I've been speaking about a potential reversal from this point here, and we had this one just big break of structure with that move there. So with euro pound, I'm expecting us to come back into the lows here. And again, for next week, we have closed, well, for this week, we have closed very bearish. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just see that kind of momentum continue over until Monday, and we just see price kind of even gap down, but open up bearish and just continue lower. However, if we can get a pullback, that'll be very much appreciated by from us to actually trade this, because again, I'm not looking to short at these prices. The market has spilled to the downside a long way. If I measure that in pips, we've come to the downside over 200 pips, which is a lot for euro pound. Euro pound doesn't normally move with these big moves in one go. So this is a lot for euro pound. So I do want to see some type of correction next week before I even consider shorting, and coming into one of these two areas as well, be looking for some shorts. This area here is a brief area of support, which is going to be turning resistance in the lower time frames. I'm looking at it because it's sitting quite nicely on that 0.86 level there, so I do like it. If we have a slightly bigger pullback, then I'm looking, of course, at this structural low here. Lovely move to the upside, of course, will be turn resistance as well. Possibly could see price come and test either one of those levels for continuation. And again, coming into, did not mean to do that. Coming into the week, I said if you get a nice break of structure, we'll be looking at some retests of these levels, possibly this low if it's a bigger move. But again, I was not expecting this to happen. Very big move to the downside for euro pound. But again, doesn't change the bias at all. It just means that you have to recalculate the levels you're looking to trade from and go from there. But in terms of the direction, still bearish. We're not quite at the daily lows yet, so we still got a little bit more downside left, still a bit more juice to squeeze. out of this opportunity, and then when we hit the level we can kind of rest and see what goes from there. But yeah, euro pound still bearish. Keep an eye on 0.86 and 0.861 for some trades, and expecting price to get hit 0.85 for next week. Okay, so over to Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar still trading the price where I'm looking to short. We do have a nice area of confluence here on the higher time frames. If I expand to the weekly, you can see we are printing these lower highs, 1, 2, possibly a third one. We've got a nice area of broken support, now turn resistance. We have closed quite bullish as well. So of course the possibility of price breaking out is still there. Price doesn't have to respect these areas. We don't have to start falling down. But if we do show some signs of structure shifting bearish, some lower lows, some lower highs getting printed, and a nice break of structure, then I'll be starting to look for my shorting opportunities. If we can start breaking through this low, that'd be very much appreciated, because at that point we might have a big double top in our hands, or potentially a big break of structure if we do come up a little bit higher and break through these lows. Then I can start considering some shorts to take to the downside, and again looking to tick off these areas as targets. So with Aussie dollar, nothing has changed from the buy, still bearish. However, with the close of the weekly candle, the close of the full H, the close of the daily, we are looking pretty bullish. So we need to be in standby, not just jumping into shorts just because we may have a bearish bias on a pair. The market is still bullish. We're still seeing higher highs and higher lows, as we can see here. So if you're looking to short, you need to wait for some bearish structure, some bearish momentum to come in first, and then possibly there might be some shorts later in the week. If not, of course, price may just continue higher and break through, and then of course I'll reanalyze and see where we can go from there. But this is the setup I'm kind of looking at for Aussie dollar. Again, things might develop as the week continues, so the setup might look a little bit different, but for now I'm at least first looking for the break of this low, and then I can consider looking for a retest if it does look good. And then targets, we can be looking at this low here, and possibly this low as well if you're looking to push it a little bit further back down to 0.635. but that will be the plan next week for Aussie dollar. Okay, so over to NZD CAD. So NZD CAD quite bullish this week. I was looking for a tad bigger retracement this week for this guy, but didn't quite materialize how I wanted it to. I was looking for the retest of this area here around 0.822. We saw a shallow pullback on Tuesday and then a big push to the upside. And we did see a nice retest of this area, but I opted out not to take the trade because the risk reward wasn't that favorable. It was a nice entry off this bullish engulfing candle there, testing that area of confluence, looking for a push back to the high, but the risk reward wasn't great. We're very, very close coming back into that daily high. I wanted that deeper pullback, pull away from the highs so I can attack and take advantage of a bigger swing. Right now I'm kind of chasing the tops a little bit, but NZD CAD still looks pretty bullish. Now that we've kind of really cleared away of this descending channel, we can possibly be looking at the next lower high, which is all the way up here around 0.85097. So that could be where NZD CAD is looking to go next. However, like I said, I do want to see a bigger pullback away from this resistance because it's just a little bit too high up for me to be looking to buy. But if we do see a strong break, this is where I'm expecting price to go next, and so on and so forth, potentially all the way back to the highs at 0.87875 longer term. But NZD CAD for now, I'm still considering this high over here. I'll be looking at this level here. Nice area of confluence is what we used this week on Tuesday. Resistance there, support there. We may just see a minor correction, test the area and a continuation. So do keep an eye out for that area. But like I said, the risk reward isn't that favorable for me, so I won't be looking at that level in particular. But if we do have a deeper correction back down to this area, I will consider some longs from 0.827. At least I can probably get a nice 1 to 3, 1 to 4 coming back into that level, which would be more than enough for myself. So NZD CAD pretty bullish, still looking at more upside, possibly looking at 0.85 as next target. We still haven't hit the first one though at 0.841, so that's still the main target for next week. But in terms of looking to buy, keep an eye on 0.833 and 0.827 for next week. Okay, so now on to pound NZD, and a really nice breakout finally this week. The market has been consolidating for quite a while. All the similar pairs, pound NZD, euro NZD, euro AUD, pound AUD have been consolidating for a while, but this week we've seen some big breakouts, especially for the euro Euro Aussie and Euro NZD. Of course, Euro is exceptionally weak. We just had a look at Euro Pound. So Pound NZD and Pound AUD haven't quite caught up with Euro AUD and Euro NZD. And I do think Pound NZD and Pound AUD will be catching up with those pairs ever so slightly. Of course, Euro is kind of the main weakness right now, but I think Pound is going to see some more weakness, and especially with these pairs here, I do think Pound NZD, we can see a nice push to the low, and if you go take a look at Pound AUD, I think that breakout is imminent as well. So keep an eye out for that for next week. But bring it back to Pound NZD, we're looking at a push into this low here. I said for Pound NZD in this consolidation, I don't want to touch the pair, but if we do get a breakout either up or down, if you break to the upside, I'm looking at this area, then potentially the highs overall. But if you do break to the downside, I'm looking at price coming to this low, especially if you can break out of this trend line here, connecting these higher lows. It does look like we are breaking out of that as well. Really nice weekly candle close to the downside too. So in terms of probability, it's a very, very high chance that we do see Pound NZD coming back into these lows next week. All we need to look for is a healthy pullback, find some entries and ride it down. Of course, all probability could still take a loser. Price could suddenly turn bullish. Again, you don't want to deal in absolutes, but you want to deal in high probabilities, and this is definitely a high probability situation for Pound NZD according to my analysis at least. So I'm looking for a bigger pullback for this one. We have left this big support level behind a little bit. There's two kind of setups I'm looking at. If Pound NZD wants to have a bigger pullback, we may see something like this happen next week, or we may just see price break the structure to the downside, break these lows, get a minor pullback, a more shallow pullback on the lower time frames, retest the low and then continue. So kind of similar to Euro Pound, but either which way, we're looking for break and retest of one of these two levels to then short to the downside back to 2.03, pretty much on the dot. So yeah, Pound NZD looks like a very high probability opportunity next week. Definitely will be on the watch list for myself next week, so I will be keeping a close eye on this pair. But I have to say, I really like the price action, and from a top-down perspective as well, just need to find a good entry for it. So yeah, Pound NZD, some more downside, looking at 2.03 as the targets for next week. In terms of entries, looking for the retest of 2.043 or 2.058 to get them. So that's the plan next week for Pound NZD. Okay, so moving on to CAD Yen. So CAD Yen for me, I'm not looking to touch this one at all until we get the breakout, which again could happen next week. So things might get interesting, but at the moment we're still comfortably within the range between the higher of 109,930 and also this low 107,693. So as long as we stay in this area, I'm not interested in price. We're still respecting a very key high here on the weekly chart, which is this big swing point, came into the high, big move to the downside, now we're back there again and still having trouble trying to break through. So I do suspect us to eventually break lower to the downside, which is why I'm quite interested if CAD Yen can actually break lower. I think there will be some quality setups if we can actually break lower, sort of what we just spoke about with Pound NZD, break through the structure, break through the range, and we do have a pretty clear pathway back down to the low here around 105, basically 105, 104, 500-ish into this area. So that's still kind of the scope, the move that I'm after. Anything in here for me is a little bit of a waste of my time. There's much better pairs out there, so that's where my focus will be until CAD Yen can eventually break to the downside. And again, I'm not really looking for a break higher either, because again, we're still trading that weekly range here. Don't really want to be buying up at those prices. So CAD Yen, my main focus is still the break of 107,500. I have no idea what price is doing in that range, so I'm not going to really look too much into detail about the minor swings in here. Again, if you're looking to trade the range, you can short up high, buy low. You can see this is a pivotal point. If you're looking to sell high, not a bad place to do it, 109,800, and also not a bad place to buy as well. But for myself, I'm looking for those breakouts, I'm looking for those trends, those moves with a lot of momentum, and that normally comes when we do clear these areas, clear these levels. So this is what I'll be focused on next week. 107,500, let's see if we can break that, and some shorts back down to 105, 104, 500 next week. Okay, so over to Pound USD. So Pound USD for me still at some nice prices for some sells. However, the market is still giving us higher highs and higher lows. We did see some nice bearish momentum, but didn't really amount to much during the week. Again, if I expand to the daily time frame, we're trading at this area around 1.265, 1.27, where we have seen a lot of rejection from resistance, support. I do think we can see some reaction around this area here again. However, at the moment, everything is still bullish. I need to see some evidence that the market is shifting bearish, some momentum coming in, breaking through some lows, and then we can look for some shorting opportunities underneath these areas. However, we haven't seen that yet, and until we do that, I'm not going to be looking at shorting pound USD. For all we know, we could still be looking at continuing higher and breaking through. So it's very, very important we do see that break of structure, that momentum coming through, to actually then look to short, and then possibly might see some buys later on as the market might go bullish again, and we might see a bigger move to the upside. But again, these are too high up, too into strong key levels. So I'm not really looking to follow the trend at these heights. I'd like the market to pull back a little bit for me to then look to follow the next kind of phase. But pound USD, if we can start breaking through some lows around 1.26, I'll be interested to see what the price actually can do after that. Possibly a retest of the low for some shorts. And then again, in terms of targets, looking at these price swing lows here, nothing too crazy. 1.248 and 1.239 look like sensible targets to me. So pound USD, this is still my thought process for next week. But again, it's only valid if we start breaking through these lows. If we don't, then I'm not looking to sell pound USD, and I'll just sit on my hands and wait for a bit more development and reanalyze the chart from there on. But that's my plan for next week for pound USD. Okay, so on to pound CAD next. So pound CAD, I actually really like the setup here for pound CAD next week. I'm looking for some buys back up to 1.73 up at these heights at the prior daily weekly swing high. As you can see here, before we've had this big push to the downside, since then market has been consistently forming these higher highs and higher lows, and now it's cracked above a key level here at 1.71, which is this resistance here, resistance briefly, support briefly. Now expecting it to act as support again. And of course, with this daily candle closure, big wicks to the downside, pull back, close bullish, you can see it's come back just to tag that trend line there, which we can see has had multiple tests previously, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now a 6th test. I'm expecting us just to continue that bullish trend back to the highs there at 1.73, possibly even further as well. So the plan next week is looking for a retest of this area here. If we can come back and retest it, I do think that's a fantastic place to get into an entry. Stop loss can go below the wick, or depending below the candle you enter on, depending how aggressive you want to place your stop loss. But essentially, this is the trade I'm looking at taking for next week on the retest of this area here back to the highs at 1.73, or you can look to target the high here on the left as well. I do expect us to hit the daily target, so I will push us a little bit further, but of course there's multiple wicks here. That could also be a smart place to take your profit, but for myself, I'll be targeting 1.73. So this is the plan next week for pound CAD. Again, multiple time frames looking bullish, still continuing this uptrend, holding on to a very, very key level here. So let's see if we can get that retest and the continuation back to 1.73 next week. Okay, so over to pound yen. So pound yen, I was speaking about some buys this week off this area of confluence coming into 186. We've got the price swing high on the left here. We've got this standing trend line here with these higher lows. I was looking for the next one. We did see a nice bounce to the upside, but it didn't really amount to much. We did see prices come back into some fellow resistance on the left on the lower time frames, and we have seen a pretty big reaction from there. We didn't see the full continuation. Again, at these highs, I'm not expecting anything too crazy for pound yen either. I'm more myself waiting for the counter trend moves to the downside. So if pound yen can actually start breaking through this area, things do become interesting, especially if we can pick up some momentum with the breakout. Could be seeing a nice retest just to short back down to the low here at 184.500. Back at this area here, support, support, support. Could again be acting as support as well. And of course, if you look at some other yen pairs, we have seen some strong down moves for them. So it does look like potentially it could be coming up to that phase where the yen pairs start to take a bigger breather, and we could be seeing bigger corrections from them across the board. Pound yen, we haven't really kicked in bullish here, failed to really see some strong momentum come back in. So if you do see a strong break of this, I'm looking for us to come back into the low, especially with us cracking back below that previous swing high on the daily chart. But quickly expand, this is our major swing high, big pullback, new highs. If we fail to hold that support, could be looking for a push back into this level here just below 185. So the plan next week for for pound yen and see if you can get a nice break and retest of this level here. I do want to see an impulsive break as well, because at the moment the move here is quite sluggish, which does mean it could just be a retracement for a big move to the upside. But if we can put an end to that and see some strong momentum, which we're starting to see some signs of with that candle, if you can see that kind of continue a little bit further, then the retest becomes quite attractive. Retest 186,500 for some shorts, back into 184,600. That'll be the plan next week for pound yen. Okay, so on to gold. So gold, very bullish this week. We just pinched all-time highs at 2,075,667 more or less. And yeah, there's not a lot for me to do with gold at these prices, because this is an all-time high resistance. This is a big level for gold, so I don't want to be looking to jump into anything really. Sells, yeah, make a bit more sense. Buys, definitely no. But if we start to see some evidence that the market is failing at these highs again, then the sells become a lot more attractive. I have to say, one thing I can point out from a technical standpoint is previously in this zone here from 2036 to 2070, you can see prior to that only managed to get wicks into this area. Now we're actually starting to see some candle closures in this area, confident candle closures as well. So although we haven't broken through the resistance, the fact that we're gaining ground in this area is a sign that potentially gold may even break out. Now, I'm not looking to really anticipate anything just because I think gold may break out. I'm not looking to buy gold. This is not the time to do it. And also, I'm not looking to sell gold either until I start to see some strong bearish price action coming through. Did not mean to do that. Some strong bearish price action coming through, breaking through some lows, some lower highs. Then I can consider some shorts. Of course, this is a great place to sell from. As we see previously, strong reactions from this area. However, again, we just closed the week very bullish, the day very bullish. No need to try and anticipate anything just yet until we see some signs for that. So going into next week for gold, I'm not really interested in the pair. I'll probably reanalyze it again next week, see what we're looking at. Have we broken through? Have we rejected? Then maybe there could be some nice sells following that rejection. But I don't anticipate anything, especially at these prices where we may even see a big breakout. So for gold next week, the only thing I can really be doing is looking for some sells, but I need to see some break of structures first, the downside, at least breaking for the low. And then from this area, I can kind of consider looking to short, but again, I'll play it candle by candle, seeing how we shape up next week. But quite frankly, there are better opportunities elsewhere. I don't have to trade every single pair. Gold for me is not really something I'm looking at, but if I was, this is probably what I'll be looking to set up for if we do break to the downside. But we could of course break higher. But yeah, keep an eye on the break of structure at 2032. There could be some nice break of those lows there for some moves to the downside, because we are at a big level. Just need to wait for that kind of sign that we are rejecting it. So that will be the plan next week for gold. Okay, so for Bitcoin, nothing's really changed the past 2 weeks. Still slowly moving to the upside, still in that corrective, exhausted manner. So I do think the bigger pullback is likely to come. But until it does, there's nothing really much to do here. I'm looking for that bigger swing to the upside for Bitcoin. Retest this area 31K for a bigger push into this level around 46,900. So the bias is definitely bullish for Bitcoin. Definitely after this big break of structure we had a few weeks ago. But since then, the market's been very slowly moving up. So I do want to see a bigger pullback for this one. 31K is my area of interest. Other than that, don't really have any other area that looks as good as this one, so that's kind of where my focus is for Bitcoin. Yeah, at the moment still very corrective, so we'd like to see that bigger pullback into this area, coming to the upper end of the channel as well. So we do have reason to believe there could be a move to the downside for Bitcoin soon, but of course we could still even break through as well. Bitcoin is currently quite bullish. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see that happen, so need to be patient. Really good area to pick up some longs here if we do see that correction, and a long way to go if we do see that kind of follow through to the upside. So keep an eye on 31K, but yeah, the wait for the pullback continues. Okay, so on to our last pair, which is the bonus pair, which is pound CHF. Now, pound CHF is looking very interesting for next week. I've been watching pound CHF actually for the past 3 or 4 weeks now, ever since we had this bigger pullback, but we've just been moving sideways, consolidating. As we can see, some equal highs up here, equal lows down here. So I haven't really been interested in terms of actually finding some entries, but in terms of a pair I'll be looking out for, pound CHF has been quite present in my watch list. So next week is looking good. Euro CHF had a crazy move to the downside, so I do think pound CHF will eventually follow that move. If you go take a look at Euro CHF, actually if I get the chart up right now just to quickly go over it. You can see USD CHF, huge move to the downside. I did see a nice break to the downside on Wednesday. I was looking for some pullbacks, but it never happened. Price just kept falling to the downside. So for USD CHF, I'm expecting us to come back down to these lows. As you can see, we're pretty much there already. So even if you do have a small pullback, the risk reward won't be that great. However, with pound CHF, if we were to do something similar, we've still got a pretty long way to go if we're going to come back to these lows here and continue the trend. You can see if I do expand the chart a little bit, we are retesting a pretty key level in the market. Big level of support here throughout the whole year, now kind of being held as resistance. So if we can essentially break to the downside out of the consolidation, effectively we'll be rejecting that resistance level. We'll be expecting the next low high to form and us to come back into the lows there. So that's kind of the analysis, the full process behind pound CHF. But as I've said, as long as we stay in this ranging market, ranging consolidation in the range, I'm not really interested in shorting until we get the breakout. So my focus will be on this level here at 1.1. Let's see if we can get the breakout of that, and then I'll be looking for some continuations of that back to 1.08087. So that's the plan next week for pound CHF. Risk reward looks very good on this one. If you do see a nice breakout, a long way to go to the downside if of course we're going to get to those targets, and again multiple time frames pointing down, monthly, weekly, daily, all bearish in structure as well. So let's see if we can get the break of 1.1 and then look for some follow throughs back to the lows. But yeah, guys, that does sum up the analysis for this week. If you have enjoyed it, found it useful, educational, informative, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Drop a comment down below, any pairs you're interested in for next week. I'm keen to find out. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching the video and have a fantastic weekend. I'll catch you all in the next one.